Azerbaijan. I'm with projectharmony.com project. It's my pleasure to introduce you Arzu Geybullayeva. Arzu Geybullayeva is freelance analyst and blogger based in Istanbul and Baku. She is also Azerbaijan correspondent for Observatoria Balkani Ekakaso. Her focus is mainly on gender and youth networks in Azerbaijan, as well as new media, and now it can be used for building dialogue and political civic activism. So let's welcome her.
And my name is Sana Dilanyan. I'm from Armenia and I'm representing PHInternational.com project. Today I have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Onnik Krikorian, who is a freelance journalist, blogger and a photographer. He is writing and photographing for a number of international publications, and also recently he launched a project with his Azerbaijani and Georgian colleagues for using social media to overcome negative stereotypes in the South Caucasus. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Onnik.
Right. Okay, I'm really not used to speaking at conferences. Well, I am, but I always get nervous. It'll take me a few minutes to get accustomed to this. What we're going to do, Arzu and I, is we're going to kind of split our presentation into two, because it's just more new in social media we've used to try and overcome barriers. But at the same time, new in social media obviously has a role to play in activism within the three separate South Caucasus countries. And Arzu will particularly also talk about the example of Azerbaijan, which is probably arguably the strongest in this area. One second. We also want to try and make this interactive, because I don't really like myself sitting in front of a speaker and just listening to them drone on and on and on. And I don't particularly want to drone on and on and on. So I want to try and make this interactive. So if you want to just ask some questions, or if there's a point you don't quite understand, or you want to even take exception to it, then please just stick your hand up and let's try and make this as free-form as possible. There will be some presentations tomorrow about the situation with new media in the South Caucasus. But let's look at a general overview. In Armenia, we had presidential elections in 2008. And the elections, as usual, were bitterly disputed, allegations of falsification, etc., etc. However, this time we had really bad post-election troubles, unrest, which left 10 people dead. As a result, there was a state of emergency that was called, and media was effectively censored. No media could actually report their own news. They had to report government press releases for 20 days. For some of that period as well, some websites were blocked, like Radio Free Europe's website was blocked. YouTube was even blocked for a few days. It's arguable for how long exactly it was blocked, but it was off. Sorry? 2 days? Okay. But even still, you know, the funny thing about new media is like there's a buzz in the international world. 10 people died in Armenia after the election, and in England no one really bothered to take account of this. But a friend of mine from Armenia was in England at the time YouTube was taken off for 2 days. And people would come up to him and say, "Oh my God, did they take YouTube off in Armenia?" It was like 10 people dead, oh, well, whatever. But YouTube being blocked? Oh no. It's kind of ironic in a strange sort of perverse sort of way, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so this was actually a very important stage for the development of new and social media in Armenia, because the only places where people could actually freely publish were on blogs. And this is really, in my opinion, when blogs effectively came of age, so to speak. And now, since then, we've had lots of interest in blogs as a result, as some kind of platform for freedom of expression. In Azerbaijan, although Arzu will be talking about this in more detail, in Azerbaijan, in my opinion, maybe Arzu or someone else has a different opinion on this, is I think it really started at the beginning of last year, when legislation was changed which prevented foreign radio stations from broadcasting. Because then suddenly, or at least that was the time when I started to notice that there was more activity on the blogosphere, more blogs, and especially more English language blogs started to materialize. And in July, we had the situation whereby we got to a situation where two young activists who so happened to be video bloggers were detained and are now in prison for 2 and 2.5 years in Azerbaijan. In Georgia, again, we have another, what I consider a defining moment when something happened, although Dodi can agree or disagree if she wants. And for me, I think because we've been monitoring what's been going on in Georgia, and a lot of activity was on forums, right? But I think that the August war with Russia really started to define the moment when blogs and online expression in itself was being used, although effectively in a propaganda war with Russia. Let's fast forward to today. In Georgia, we have the fastest and the cheapest internet in the region. We also have this event. And I think, in my personal opinion, that probably we're now going to see some kind of really rapid development in Georgia, which Armenia and Azerbaijan perhaps will look upon as some kind of role model for its development of new and social media, and especially with regards to civic activism. I don't want to deal specifically with the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. I'm sure most of you are aware of the conflict that goes on. This is not the point, but basically, here's an example. Here I am, and Arzu is standing over there. I live in Yerevan, she lives in Baku. I can't visit Baku, she can't visit Yerevan. Okay, so all we need to know with regards to the conflict is that it's created huge problems between relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. In my opinion, and please, if anyone wants to interject and argue a counterpoint, we don't have the necessary environment for peaceful resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, or even normalized relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is my opinion. The media on both sides, in my opinion, is not objective. It's partisan, and often, and more usually than not, it perpetuates negative stereotypes of the other side. And this is a huge obstacle to creating the necessary environment for the peaceful resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, regardless of what that actual peaceful resolution is. I would also argue that civil society is also not doing its job properly for a number of reasons. Maybe there's not the genuine will to do so. Maybe people just don't believe it's possible in such an environment. Also in Armenia, we have a politicized environment now that the conflict with Azerbaijan has effectively defined the political discourse. So in actual fact, presidents come to power or lose power precisely because of this conflict with Azerbaijan. And it's always going to be exploited. So civil society, unfortunately, is somehow kind of politicized and is not really a reliable partner, in my opinion. And this is not all NGOs, this is not all civil society initiatives, but it's a good number of them. The ceasefire agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan was signed in 1994. It is now 2010. And we are no closer to a peaceful resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh now than we were in 1994. And I think that says a lot in itself. Another issue as well is that there is a conflict, but unlike many conflicts, it is impossible really to have open communication with the other side. Which again isn't really going to help, is it? It's not going to help resolution of the conflict. And so, like over a year ago, if someone had said to me, you know what, I reckon in 2010 you'll be standing on a stage in Tbilisi, Georgia with regional analysts from Azerbaijan and giving a co-presentation, I'd probably have laughed hysterically. But here we are. And why has this happened? It's because new and social media has suddenly opened up this possibility. Maybe there was communication going on between Armenians and Azerbaijanis, and maybe it was very positive communication, but I don't believe, or certainly I didn't see much sign of it being very open communication.